Time for our first biology lesson to kick off our semester right. And the first lesson is about living and non-living animals. Biology is the study of life. So ology means study of, and bio is life, or bios. And so in biology, we need to first define what is living and what is not living. And there are 8 characteristics that something must have in order to be living, or to be classified or qualified or labeled as living things. And clearly, Annie the anaconda is one of them. So, or has all 8 of those characteristics to be considered a living. So what are the 8 characteristics? Well, let's go through them, and then we're going to go through some items here and see see if you can tell me if they're living or non-living, and why not. So the first one is that it takes in energy. And so when you take in energy, that means they eat or they consume something, or they absorb something, or in some way energy is being transferred from the environment into the organism, and that makes it alive. All right. Secondly, it gives off waste. If you eat something, you make a waste, right? And so they're living organisms. Things that are living give off waste, and things that are non-living don't give off waste. They respond to the environment. So let's think about it. When you get cold, you get goosebumps. You have a response to the environment. You are alive. Do you think this antler? Well, whoa, wait a second. That's a tricky one. We'll have to talk about that. But do you think this antler gets goosebumps when it gets cold? I don't know. All right, another thing the fourth thing that living things do is move. Even plants move, believe it or not. Yep, a plant can turn throughout the day to follow the sun, or a plant can respond. Well, let's respond to stimuli, respond to the environment by moving away or towards something that it wants. Plants can do that even. We know the animals do that. All right, and then breeze or respiration. And so that's the use of oxygen. This is number 5. And that's the use of oxygen, is that all living creatures, if it's categorized as alive, breathes or respires somehow with oxygen in some point in its life. And then number 6 is that they grow. So if you are taking in energy, you're moving, and you're breathing, chances are you're growing too. So that's kind of another requirement to be called a living thing, is that you're growing. Number 7 is that you reproduce. And so things that are living reproduce themselves. They pass along their genes, their genetic code that is part of them, but so it's a reproducing. If you have one living thing, you're going to have more than one living thing. And number 8 is made of cells. And so clearly we're made of cells. Annie's made of cells. But let's talk about some of these items I have on the table here, and let's just see where or what is living and non-living, and where the category is, or how, if we can define it. What about a mirror? Does this one have anything? If it were just laying on the table, does it take in energy, give off waste, respond to the environment, move, breathe, grow, reproduce, or made of cells? No, it doesn't do any of that. So mirrors are clearly non-living. What about a light bulb? This is one of our fancy halogen, fancy UV light. He does heat and UV light for the animals here. But does it do any of those things? No, it does take in energy when we turn it on. It's burning electricity, but no, it is not living. What about my feeding tongs? They're made of stainless steel. Not living. Sharpies? Not living. All right. So what about an antler? Is an antler living? It's made of bone. At one time, it was attached to a living creature. It did take in energy. It did give off waste. It did respond to the environment when it was attached to the deer. It did move. It did breathe when it was attached to the deer. The cells in it breathe. Oh, it's made of cells. it didn't have lungs or anything for breathe itself, but the cells, when it was growing and the velvet around it definitely breathed. Oh, made of cells. Did it reproduce? No, antlers don't reproduce, but they do come back every year, but they do grow. So think about that. So an antler was alive at some time, but no longer is, because it no longer takes in energy, it no longer gives off waste, it's kind of no longer moves, it's just kind of by itself. What about a turtle shell? What about a turtle shell? This is a painted turtle shell. Yeah, exactly like the antler. It's made of bone, and then the scutes are made of keratin on it, on the like your fingernails on the outside. But yeah, just like that, it was once alive when the turtle was living inside of it, and once the turtle died and decomposed, it's no longer considered a living thing. It's not. What about yarn? Cotton. Yarn made of cotton. Cotton's a plant. Is the yarn alive? No, it was made from a living thing, but the yarn is not alive anymore. All right, I've got some collard greens that we're getting ready to feed to Thor. And so with the collard greens, if we're feeding them to Thor, well, they are kind of still alive. They can respond to the environment even. They're wilting as they dry out. That's a response to dry air. They take in energy. They're still taking in light energy and still conducting photosynthesis. It gives off waste. The waste in this case is oxygen and carbohydrates, a response to the photosynthesis. Does it move? Well, maybe it doesn't move so much anymore now it's been cut, but I bet it's still, if we were to put it in water, the leaves would move as they filled up a little bit. I mean, as water got pulled back up to them. It does breathe. It does do respiration. It will still grow if we keep it alive in water, but it has been cut off from its roots, so we'd have to put it in water to keep it growing. Would it reproduce? Eventually, it might put off some seeds, and it is made of cells. So this plant is still alive until Thor eats it, and Thor turns it into waste. But as currently, right now, all those things is still alive. I've got some other creatures here too that we're just going to look at really quickly and just see if they're alive. What about a stink pot turtle? I got to be careful. Annie might want to eat this turtle. She would love to eat. Did you know that the anacondas eat turtles? Yeah, they're one of the few snakes that does. Or the Mississippi map turtle. These little guys, they definitely are alive. They're doing everything. They take in energy, they give off waste, they respond to the environment, they move, they breathe, they respire, they breathe and respire together, they grow, they reproduce, and they're made of cells. How awesome is that? All right, got one more creature. Annie's getting a little bit impatient with me. Let's see, it might be because she smells this last creature here that we're gonna look at. Let's see. Oh, it got away. No, it didn't. I've got it, but I gotta watch out for Annie because she would definitely love to eat this. Our bullfrog, look at it move. Yes, it is breathing. It takes in energy. It eats really well. It eats any bug or mice or caterpillar, anything we put in front of it, this guy eats. It responds to the environment. If it dries out, it gets in the water, or it will bask in underneath its heat lamp. Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. It definitely does respiration. It's breathing right now. If you watch it, you can watch it breathe. And it grows. This thing, she's growing like crazy. And she would reproduce. Her cells are reproducing, but she would reproduce if we let her, but we're not going to let her. And then she's definitely made up of cells. So that's what life is. So we're going to go on a snake hike right now, and we're let me put her away. She's getting a little mad with me. All right, I got her put away. We're good now. We'll get her back in her better enclosure as soon as we can, so she doesn't get out on us. But we're gonna go on a snake hike now, and we're gonna go outside and we're gonna see what living and non-living things are out there. And that snake hike is something you're gonna do as part of your assignment for this class. All right, let's head out and do a snake hike. It's time for a snake hike. Living versus non-living. Let's see what we can find out here, living and non-living things. Let's just look around. So if I look around right in front of me, I have all these plants. They're all alive. They're all doing the living things, and I see lots of little bugs in here. Let's just see, let's sneak out here. Oh, the water. Is water living or is water non-living? That's right, water is non-living. It doesn't have any cells. It does move, it does grow, it does can reproduce if we call rain reproduction. It's kind of has a lot of the characteristics of living things, but it's not life. And there's a grasshopper right there. Let's see what else we can find. Oh, we've got vegetation in the water. That's living. I see fish. I see water striders. Living and non-living. Check out this leech we found. That is amazing. Let's see if we can sneak up on this big old snapping turtle that's just right there. What about all the sticks around them? Are those living or non-living? How cool is this? He's letting us get right up to him. Oh, I put my shadow over him. Sorry, Mr. Snapper. But look at that. Look at this big old living creature. All right. And there he goes.
There he goes.
See you later, Snapper.
Where's he going?
Living. There's a little toad here that's living. The mud is not living, but it's full of living organisms.
What?
Right here, we've got all sorts of living creatures. We've got mosquito fish. We've got little baby bullfrogs. We have the toad. We've got honeybees and all sorts of other little insects coming and getting water off the mud flat. The mud is non-living, but it's full of living things such as bacteria and protists. Things we're going to learn about all this semester. Here's some non-living things. These rocks. These rocks are non-living. And then this old dead stick, this old twig, non-living. An amazing adventure out here. Dragonflies flying around. I love it. This is an incredible little spot full of living and non-living things. So I'm gonna head out of here. Oh, look at all this duckweed. This is an amazing plant that lives on the top of the water. It has roots and everything that float down in the water. Let's take a quick look at that, a closer look at this living creature. So this is duckweed. We're going to take a little bit closer look at it. It grows floating on the surface of the water, but if we were to pick some of it up, this is hard. Look at all those little roots that are growing down there. Actually, those are not part of the duckweed. The duckweed has smaller roots. Here we go. Let's see. Uh-oh. Yeah, so right here, there we go. Yep, actually those are the duckweed roots. Those are really long ones. Maybe it's because we're in the floating water here that the roots are so long. But you can see how they've anchored themselves as they float across with those, using those roots. It's an amazing plant. And plants are definitely a living creature. One thing that we talk about in a lot of our classes is the human impact on our native ecosystems. And as you can see as I'm walking up here, I found a non-living thing, and it's this barbed wire fence that separates the pasture from the stream bottom, which is actually a really good thing. If we can keep cows out of our streams and horses and things out of our streams, that's really good for the stream. But at the same time, this fence is no longer needed, but it's still out here having an impact. Maybe deer could get hung up on it, or even a coyote might get scratched by it. So it does have an impact. And then we've got a whole bunch of pipe left out here. This could easily be cleaned up. So just think about when you're out looking for your living and non-living things, think about the human impact that we have on our landscape. And you can really see it right here with the pipe, the fence, The grasses on the other side of the fence are different from the native species here. And then actually, as I'm looking forward, walking up here, I've got non-native species. We've got some Russian thistle that's dead now, thankfully. And then we've got teasel, another non-native species right here. Those have been brought here by humans, and they can take over. Pretty neat once we open our eyes to see the living and non-living creatures. I guess if it's non-living, it's not a creature, but you know what I mean. All right, that was a quick little fun hike. We saw all sorts of creatures, the non-living and living things. Now it's time for your assignment. I want you to go outside and see if you can make a list of 20 living and 20 non-living creatures. Can you make of 20 of each? That's a lot. For your younger kids out there, maybe just 10. But your older ones, let's do 20. All right? So that's your assignment for this lesson, is to get outside and just appreciate and witness and experience the living and non-living things, even if it's in your backyard. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Oh, fire. There's fire a lot. Well, I can start this piece of paper on fire and watch the fire grow. It definitely is growing. I can add to it and it will continue to grow. It moves. Watch it move. Watch it move along this piece of paper here. I'll start one end of it on fire and it will move to the other end. So it definitely moves. Does it have all the characteristics of life? Watch what happens. We'll just keep feeding this fire. We'll still just keep putting things in it. And watch it as it moves and grows. It consumes oxygen. It is burning. It reproduces. Watch what happens when it reproduces. We can add more to it and the fire will continue to move. Now that's just paper. What happens if I put sticks into it? Uh-oh, I think I put it out. But let's see what happens here as the sticks move. All right, so now the fire looks like it's almost out, but we can add oxygen to it, air to it, and get it going again. Let's see what happens here. It's living and breathing as we're looking at it right here. The one thing that fire does not have, which would be missing from all of this, is cells. But all the other characteristics of life, fire does have.